This is Life Lessons Lounge, and I'm Igina Gerazi. Here, we explore diverse life stories and the wisdom they hold. Let's delve into the stories that shape us, teach us, and connect us all. I'm still buzzing with the energy of this call. Today, it's a recording with Leilani Lucero, who is an international mystic. She's a master Akashic records practitioner. She's a healer. She's a medium. We talked about what are Akashic records, her journey towards becoming a healer, and her spirituality, and what it has taken her to heal and do the work that she's doing. And how does she protect herself? How does she discern between energies? The life lessons that she has learned throughout this time, the courage that it has taken to do this kind of life. What are some of the misconceptions that she encounters when it comes to spirituality and mysticism? There is so much wisdom, so much love, so much courage in this episode. And I really wish for you to dive into it and take in what serves you in your life right now. I'm actually really, really excited that you're here. And I've been all these days like, oh, Leilani. And usually, when I have someone coming, it's like I have days before thinking about it and getting into that energy. And I'm so excited you're here finally.
Yeah, me
Thank you
too.
for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I know you do so many things. Like you're a master Akashic records, you're energy healer, you're a medium, you're a life coach as well, certified life coach, right? So I definitely want to hear all the stories, especially how you got into the Akashic records.
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually. I've always been very spiritual from a very young age. I think when I was 8 years old is when I felt my first being, but it really scared me. It scared me and I didn't know what to do with it. So I kind of just like tucked myself in, turned away, closed it off. But throughout my life, I've been very intuitive and in tuned. And I just thought that that was part of my genetic makeup. That's just who I am, but I always kind of knew things. I knew when things would happen. I knew how people felt. I knew I could feel into the energy wherever I was. And my dad was also very spiritual. He would always talk about if you have dreams and you remember them, if you see numbers or if beings or spirits come through, maybe they have messages for you. Or, I remember when his mother died, he told me you might see her, and if you see her, let me know. So there was a foundational base for spirituality in my life. And I went to a Catholic school for primary school up until 8th grade here in the US, but I was never religious. I never understood it. It never made sense to me. It was so divisive. And the whole premise to me about spirituality is connection. It's connection and love. And so I never understood it. And so I really turned my back on some of the things within Catholicism that just felt so pushed upon people. But I did love what it brought. It brought because I went to a Catholic school, it brought a diverse people, that just wanted, a better schooling, better education, that weren't necessarily Catholic. So I was introduced at a very young age to very diverse types of people, which I loved. And I did the things. I was an altar server and I was in choir and, did all the things, but never really landed for me. It was never really anything. And so I learned at a very young age to be very quiet and private about my spirituality because it may not align with anybody else's ideas or beliefs. And based on my own imprints and my own traumas, I didn't quite trust authority figures or people in seemingly positions of power, or basically even anyone else, or relationships. So I was always very private about my beliefs and my communion with source and God and the universe. um, Listen, I've been seeing psychics since I was 19. I had spiritual advisors in my late 20s and 30s, just for me, just because I was so connected to that world. I had moments of profound enlightenment and clarity in, like, through my travels. I was volunteering in Tanzania at a school, and it was in the morning, and these children were singing like morning songs, and I was participating and being in the energy of this. And this was about 10 years ago now, listening to it, but I felt in that moment something unlike anything else I've ever felt, where it was profound connection. I am, that idea of I am one with all of the universe, and this thread of consciousness that through song, through these smiling children in this place across the world, I am connected to any and all things that is. And so I've had moments of these profound, deep realizations and epiphanies and clarities and feelings within me. I never really spoke about them to people because people can be a little weird, right? Around spirituality, and people can be a little bit self righteous, and it didn't feel safe all the time. And so when I was introduced to the Akashic records, it was one of those things that and I will also, side note, say this. When I was younger, I always wanted to, like, be like a Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa, because I just thought how beautiful they get to go around the world and connect with people and just love. But then there was this part of me that was very much, who are you in your tiny apartment in a broken home with such toxicity to dream that you could be something so filled of light, so magnificent and impactful in the world? So it was one of those things, I just shut it down. And when I was introduced to the Akashic records later, this was maybe 4.5 years ago now, I was introduced to the Akashic records. I was like, what is this thing that everybody keeps buzzing about? What do people keep talking about? So I had a reading from somebody who eventually became my mentor and my teacher. And I had a reading, and it was very impactful. It had different energy than most of the psychic readings I had had previously. And just stayed in her energy field, saw that she had courses and things, but it wasn't until a year and some change later that I was like, okay, now I'm ready to go deeper into what is available for me. And at that time, I was going through a big transition in my life. I had left a career in the tech startup world. I was the head of talent acquisition at this startup in New York, and I had been in this career environment for over 15 years. So I was wanting to fill my cup, but go deeper into what was available and see what was next for me. So I took this course, and immediately it changed the trajectory of my life. Immediately from the first session that I had, I realized how powerful and attuned my gifts were. And I tested it. I said, okay, universe, okay, spirit, let's see how this really is. Let's see how true this really is. And so I had readings and sessions with friends, and I said, okay, if you guys know anybody, I'm going to do 30 free sessions, 40 free sessions. And I did that. And session after session, reading after reading, everybody's like, wow, that was so accurate. Wow, that was incredible. And I was like, okay, so here we go. And that was a little over 3 years ago now.
Yeah. And I've been one of those persons that I've received readings from you. And I can attest that I feel so much surrounded by love
Mm,
when you're giving those readings. And also there's, as you said, so much accuracy, so much resonance, so much clarity in those sessions. I'm deeply in awe
mm.
to how you channel and everything that you do. It's
It's
amazing.
incredible because I always wanted to serve in a way, that was very impactful. I've moved in and through different volunteer groups and organizations, and I wanted to move into a nonprofit space, after recruiting and helping people find their careers and their jobs. And then I got into coaching. I was certified in coaching in 2015, but everything always just kind of fell flat. You know,
Mm.
it didn't have the power and the energy behind it. And then this did, and I was like, oh gosh, here we go.
I'm curious as well, like, what did it take of you to lead this life now? What does it take of you?
Oh, it's very interesting because everybody's paths and journeys are so different. We contract in each of our lives, in each of our incarnations, the lessons we want to learn, the relationships we want to have, the ways that we can continue to ascend our consciousness. And in this life, it really took, as I started doing this work, it's been this really progressive journey of truly unshedding all that I learned that was untrue in this life and many others that kept me from partnering and co-creating and being in the divine consciousness and serving from that place. And so there was a lot because we are humans, right? We have all sorts of shit we have a guilt, we have resentment, we have like,
Have egos.
yeah, we have so many things. And
Yeah.
for me, a lot of it particularly was around allowing myself to be seen, fully
Mm.
being seen in all that I am and all that I used to protect from others and all that was my truth. And there is still some of that because even in my friendships, people don't quite understand the energy and the purity and the intentionality that it takes to serve in this way. Even, and I say this to a lot of people too, when you find a healer, when you work with somebody, make sure they're pure, make sure their channel is pure and intentional and good.
How to do that?
Yeah.
I'm also very curious.
Yeah. We'll get there. There's so much around that. I love that. There is something around this journey of shedding, of releasing, of rebirthing, of renewal, of regeneration. And I've had many iterations of that in the past over 3 years since I started doing this work. It's very cyclical. The energy can be very short and feel like just 2 months time. There's been, for 2 years, I pretty much went MIA from all of the groups that I was in because I
I
deeply
remember.
immersed myself in healing, in ensuring that this vessel, this channel was completely clear, that I loved myself, that I could be from this place of divinity so I could fully serve. And so I said, I hope to see you later, but I don't know if I will. And then kind of like went into myself. And there was a reemergence that kind of happened last year, right? Of like, okay, here I am now. I feel ready in a new way to be with people and energy. And I also needed to discern what was mine, what wasn't, what was people's things. But that helps when you ask about and how to ensure the purity of the channel and ensure that you're working with somebody that's very clean and clear. There needs to be an ability to discern what is egoic and what is higher consciousness, right? Even from your heart space, it could be muddled and biased. There's all these
Mm.
emotions held within your heart, so you have to go higher. You have to really do the deep work to make sure that you're pure and clear and good, especially if you are serving others. And I've seen so many people in this community, and you see it as coaches too, like, oh, I'm a coach now. Why? Because you lived a life, because yes, you've had experiences. And I don't believe it, you have to be like fully credentialed to be a coach, but tell me more about why you think you're a coach. Tell me more about why you think you can serve. Same as healers, same as spiritual advisors. Tell me how you've worked through yourself to get to the purest channel. Tell me how you discern what's yours, what isn't. Tell me what beings come through when you connect with them. Are you in integrity? Are you speaking your truth? We see this all the time in social media. People are like, oh, I did this and I got here. They don't talk about the hardship. And, some people are like, oh, I always do this and this. And it's like, well, do you? I've never heard you talk about that before, right? You can garner a sense of a falseness, and that's
Mm.
tinged with some desperation, some neediness, some urgency around it. And that makes it not pure. It makes it not clean. So we
Mm.
as beings need to make sure that we even come correct with our friends, with our loved ones, that we're not projecting our stuff onto them, that if we are triggered, that we actually take time away to be with it, see what we can unravel ourselves before we speak to it, before we address it. It's really important, and not a lot of people come with that kind of level of integrity and intentionality. But it's okay, because we can still be with that if we know who we are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I can hear that. When you tunnel, how do you also discern from the energies?
And it might be a little bit helpful to talk a little bit about the Akashic records for your listeners that might not be aware of it. So the Akashic records, essentially, it's an energetic repository of all things since creation. So there's the universal Akashic records, and then each being, each entity, not just humans, they have their own Akashic records. It holds all of your emotions, your imprints, your past lives, your potential possibilities, your actual outcomes, your ancestral threads. Anything and everything is recorded within the Akasha. And so when you access it, and it's all based on the foundation of love, right? And so when you access, as I do, the Akashic records, because it's on the foundation of love, because it's a higher level consciousness state, when I channel, and we'll talk about mediumship separately, because I am also
Mm.
a medium, and not all Akashic Records practitioners are mediums. Not all psychics are mediums. Not all mediums do, it's all very different, even though it feels like, it's kind of the same. Um, so when I channel, I'm firstly asking the record keepers to have access to your records with your permission, okay? And that's very important. We don't, as a person, a healer, as a practitioner, you want to ensure they have integrity. People can't just go in to people's records willy-nilly and see let me see what what is happening over there with Joe. No, we don't do that. And there's also higher self that may come in and stop us from doing that, but we want to act in integrity. So I first ask your record keepers to have access. And I call in your angels, I call in your guides, I call in your loved ones. And if anyone wants to step up with any messages, they can do so. That's also connected to the mediumship, right? To see who comes in. But I channel not one being, I channel highest frequency. That is my
Mm.
intention, is to come from highest consciousness and source. Sometimes it doesn't always come like that, because, for example, I used to do readings at a metaphysical shop here in San Diego. And sometimes people are coming through and they're like, I want to know if this person am I dating, and they're the one, right? That's so low. That's so low energy. That's so low frequency. So I don't need to go to the highest level consciousness to channel that answer. Because I have psychic abilities and I have all the different clear senses, I can tap into, what do I feel here to be true? I don't need to go the highest high. So there's a
Mm.
range of what is being brought and what is needed in this space. But my aim, especially if there's any healing, and you know this, my aim through healing is to hold and facilitate and be the vessel, so that your healing takes place at that highest level, so that we can clear, cleanse, negate, transmute all of that. Yeah. And across all time, right? Across all reality, across all dimension, across all levels of consciousness. Because, as we've talked about before, this idea of past life It's not real. We as humans need to make things make sense, right? So we'll say past life when in reality, we're living these timelines right now. This is why quantum physics is such a big deal, right?
That was a nice eye opener for me when you actually said that in one of the open calls.
Yeah, there's so much science and spirituality are working parallel with each other, and they dance with each other. But there are some purists that say, and I'm not here to refute or about that, but to show awareness that there is a level of understanding that we don't even our all of our educators, our scientists, our mathematicians, they're still learning things, right? We're still learning things as a collective, as a society. And this world is very limitless. I will say that.
That's really beautiful. And how do the Akashic records actually help us understand our lives and our destiny as well?
It's your soul's truth. So everything imprinted in the Akashic records is your soul's truth. So when we go in, you can ask, like, what is this incarnation's purpose? What is the soul contract for this life? Why did I experience this really hard thing? Why did I have to undergo crazy like health diagnoses? Why did that relationship like break me? All of these things, we can go into your Akashic records, and it provides clarity, understanding, truth, so that you can come back to self, come back to divinity, and live in alignment of your truest self, your highest form of expression. Because as humans, the highest, and I've said this before, the highest frequency that we can experience as humans is joy. Okay? We're meant to be in joy. We're meant to feel that. But we get so mirrored with all of the shit, all of the day to day, all of the energies around us. So that's why it's very important to clear, cleanse, release. But the Akashic Records is limitless. You can clear past life patterns. You can even just visit and see, like, oh, why is there this thing that like I'm so attached to in this life randomly? Like, why do I love this particular like place in the world that I always want to travel to this place in the world? Maybe a past life you had a beautiful experience there and you remember
Hmm.
it in this life, in this body, right? Or why do I keep the other day somebody was like, I have agoraphobia, and I am very scared and fearful when I'm in a car and I'm not the one controlling the car. And we looked into it, and there was a past life where there was a very big accident that he was involved in that life that has come through the fear channel and is impacting this life, right? So we can clear that. We can clear ancestral stuff that you might not even know you have and hold within you or be able to understand, but it's through generations back, and I can pinpoint and be like, oh, it's this, let's clear that, right? So it doesn't impact you anymore. Because sometimes you may feel something that you're like, that's not really mine, but I know it's in my field. I know I'm experiencing this thing and I don't know what it is. Yeah, that can come through sometimes. Does that answer your question? I just it.
No, what I love about what you do, it's not only the channeling of the Akashic records, but it's also you do the healing on top of that as well, which is really amazing.
Yeah, healing, as we know, isn't a one and done situation. And our emotions are tied, so they're so intertwined to different imprints in our lives, this life or past lives or ancestors. Sometimes you may heal something specifically, but it might show up again in a different way. And you're like, why did I clear that? Oh, it's because we didn't heal that specific tie to that thing, right? So it's very Yeah, it's so healing is so like I don't even know. There's a immensity with it, and it doesn't look like something, and it's not prescriptive. Everybody goes through different experiences too. Someone, as they're healing, might experience like nausea and throwing up as they regurgitate all the stuff they're clearing. Some might be just like high on life and feeling so good, right? It's different for everybody. And I think this idea of how it needs to look like, and the idea of time with healing needs to shift and change as well, because time does not serve us.
No, true. But have you encountered some misconceptions when it comes to especially mysticism and also healing that we were just talking about?
It's interesting because someone the other day, I do lives a couple times a month, and it's like a free offering just because it's a fun space to be in. I love connecting with people, and I want to offer what I can. So I do free mini readings, and we talk about spirituality and mysticism, and it's wonderful. It's a fun place to play in. And I like had advertised, like, did one of those Instagram boosts or whatever, and someone like wrote this comment, was just like, oh, all this good vibes shit and spiritual da 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 da, and you're not saying anything about Palestine, and all these things are happening. And I was like, I had to take a beat, because in that moment, my human self, my ego came into play. I was like, wait, you don't know me. You don't know my stance. You don't actually know about the work that I've done, for Palestine. So I had to take a minute to come back to my higher self, as opposed to reacting from ego. And it was just very interesting, because this is what we do as people. We point the finger, we say, we pass judgment. There's a self righteous air about our stance, our belief, and not actually coming together to see, like, who are you? What do you stand for? Right. And social media has that way about it, that it happens very quickly. And so my response was, I wanted this person to actually understand that, not for ego that I have been doing things, but for understanding that when you point the finger without understanding, you actually shut down a conversation. And that could be very dangerous and toxic, because what if someone was on your side and you
Mm,
offended, and now they were like, well, if I'm doing things and no one's seeing it and I'm being attacked anyways, what's the point? And then what if they stop? What if
mm,
they stop doing the things that creates a greater impact? Right? So there is this belief and this misconception. And I think it's changing now with the greater awakening, with the new earth, with spirituality feeling so trendy these days. Honestly, it feels very trendy. I'm very against trends, but this is my work and this is my life, so fine. But of, and I've probably used the term woo woo once. I don't use the term. That term actually drops the energy of the divine. And I don't want to
mm,
do that. So I believe that words have magic. And so if you want to talk about spirituality and you feel like it's not for you, it doesn't have to be woo woo or any of these things, right? But that's the misconception. Like, you're this one way, you do this thing, when, like, if you know me, I swear, I've like cussed how many times in this recording. I'm like a normal person, still having a human experience, living my life, going through things that are difficult for me, healing my own journey, working through myself, learning. I learned so much in my sessions with my clients, like just as much as my clients do. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, like, because it's being channeled, information is new to me too sometimes. So this
mm,
idea that spirituality, energy healers are this, I'm going to tell you, it's not. While I am wearing white right now, it's not all wearing white in a forest doing sound baths, like, that's lovely and it's healing and it's beautiful, but like, that's not necessarily my jam. I travel the earth, I talk to people, like, I swear all the time, I want to hear stories. I don't I don't use the term woo woo. You don't have to look or be or speak a certain way for it to be something so beautiful and right for you. So for
Mm.
those, I think that are wrestling with that understanding and some of the stigma behind spirituality, just let it be what it is for you. Let it be like the divine truth that you hold. It doesn't have to look like anything. It doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't have to speak like anything. If it relates to you, great. Like there's so many people that use God. I don't typically use the term God. I use highest level consciousness. I use source. I use divinity. Some people say goddess. Whatever works for you, it doesn't matter. It's the energy behind it.
Mm. Yes, yes. And and what I love about you, that really it feels that integrity, that authenticity, that it simply shines through when I'm in your presence. So yeah. So when you prepare yourself for sessions,
Mm.
right? Like to know that you come from this pure energy of love, that also, as you also mentioned before, that it's not yours, but that you're channeling for them. Like, what's the practice? What do you do?
So I align myself with that consciousness energy. So, and we can all do this. This is our birthright. Excuse my voice, everybody. So, we as divine beings, we have access to our records, we have access to our intuition, we have access to the divine. It's available for us, right? And so, for me, when I prepare myself, and this is something that I realize um, it was why it was so easy for me and the gifts already unraveled so quickly, is because I realized I was already doing that throughout my life. Throughout
Mm.
my life, there were times, listen, I went through a dark night of the soul at 22. At 22 years old, I question God, source. I question my role in this life. I question my life. And I took action on that, and it created a long period of a dark night of the soul, of dancing in the duality of darkness and light, and trying to come back and find my place in it time and time again. And so, because of all of those things I've experienced in my life, I have a great practice of being in high consciousness. And so, for me, with my clients, it's just a matter of, I say this a lot too, it's open conversation for me with spirit. Always. My channel is very open. Too much so, actually, that I realized in the last few weeks that I've allowed entities in that shouldn't be in. So I am now a little bit more intentional about what gets into my field and into my channel. But I it's important for me to spend time in nature. It's important for me to look at the water. It's important for me to connect with the trees and the elementals. It's important for me to, in the morning, like I write out my clients that I'm speaking with that day, and I just say a prayer for helping to serve them in the best way possible at the highest consciousness, and to rectify what needs to be rectified to help them move through. I'm very intentional about the words I use. So everything in my life is very intentional, but that doesn't mean it's predictive. That doesn't mean it's like, because I work with all these energies, because I flow with energy so much so that it actually, I move a lot. I move a lot throughout my life. I've moved a lot. I've lived in a lot of different places, cities, states, hopefully countries soon. But I go with the flow of energy. And if the flow of energy doesn't feel good there, I won't go there. If it doesn't, and I've realized through with my clients, some clients cannot match my level of integrity. And
Mm.
at that point, it's a decision of whether or not to continue to work with them. That doesn't mean I don't want to serve them. It just means that somebody else might be better apt to serve them. right? Because I require a lot also from my clients. I require them to have courage, radical courage, to do the work, to see themselves more than they currently feel themselves to be. Right. And so those are the people that I want in my life, in my friend group, in my circle, and in my clients. And I do a lot of prep work. I have to clear and cleanse myself because everybody had like energies, right? This is why I don't drink a lot like I used to. I can't, the energy creates an opening portal for other things to come in, and it brings you down and your body is affected. And so I can't. If I'm drinking the night before, I'm not doing sessions the next morning. I'm not doing healing sessions, right? I'm not going deeper in that stuff. So I live a very intentional life of energetic flow and higher consciousness to serve myself first and foremost. I do this for me. I do this because this is my contract. I do this because this is how I best love myself. And it's an added bonus that I get to love and help heal and serve people as well.
Well, thank you for doing all that. And you mentioned about this low entities that are entering sometimes your sphere, right? So how do you protect yourself from that?
This is good for everybody. Everybody, you guys, this energy is so wild this year.
Yes.
It's been really crazy. As we all know, the last few years have been really insane for everybody as a collective. This year especially, there's a lot of astrological things happening in the space. We are the energy has also accelerated, so we as humans can get to a little bit more of attunement in this new earth. But there's a lot of resistance in the field, and so we have to, it's like a recipe, okay? You don't want to just like protect yourself when you have all this shit you haven't cleared yet, right? You want to clear it first. You want to cleanse yourself first. And then you want to protect yourself because then you're protecting the sanctity of your purity, of your sacred vessel, of your beingness. And, you want to clear all of that. It's like clearing is, releasing, transmuting, negating. Cleansing is like a blessing. Cleansing is like, okay, spirit, now clean me thoroughly. It's like that beautiful bath, it's like that waterfall. It feels like like a blessing, like a miracle, like light. You want to bless the vessel that you're in, and then you want to protect it, right? So it's like a 3-step process. You got to clear, you got to cleanse, and you got to protect. And you got to make sure that you are very deliberate about what you take into your energy. You know, if you're in traffic and all of a sudden you're going crazy because you're mad that this person has cut you off, or somebody didn't hold the door open for you, you've now given your power away to let somebody impact your energetic field. And your frequency has now lowered its vibration, right? But you can bring that up very quickly. You just have to be very intentional and deliberate about what you take in. If you know that you have plans with and someone's that's going to suck the energy out of you and complain all night long about their life and play victim, you should probably not go to that thing. You should probably not skip that dinner or that outing or that connect, and just take care of yourself. Like, we have to be really intentional these days.
So I love that tool that you gave, like clean cut, protect. Beautiful. And talking a little bit about intuition, right? So it is actually, we're all born with intuition, right? And somehow some of us lose it along the way. So how have you actually worked with your intuition to strengthen that even more?
It's really interesting. So I talked a little bit about like this journey in the last few years while I've been in this work. Some crazy experiences and things have even come up for me that weren't quite pleasant to be with in the human experience. And it was to show me how deep to show and remind me how deep my intuition is. Like, sometimes when you think about someone and all of a sudden they call you, right? Or like You're like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. Or you think about a dessert that you would just love to have, and then you go somewhere and it's being served, right? Like these things happen so frequently. It's because you're in that level of consciousness. And a lot of manifest teachers, which by the way, I feel like a lot of that manifest stuff is like so like talk, 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 talk. I'm like, I never really understood like how
Mm.
they broke down manifesting because it didn't make sense to me. It's so much easier and simpler than they say. But just like these premonitions that you may have, these intuitive hits, we'll talk about that. These
I wonder.
these intuitive hits you have, you're aligned with that level of consciousness. So your intuition is already activated so that you actually in manifestation receive the thing that you were aligning to, or get the call of the friend that you were thinking about, or get to eat the dessert because it showed up at the place, right? Whatever it is, you're aligned to that. And it's about that frequency, it's about that vibration. So what we have to do, and that's part of this course that it will be coming out next month on intuition and tapping in, we can utilize it to best serve us in ways that we just never have truly before, right? Sometimes you'll get the creative hit, oh, I should do this thing. And then it may fall flat, or you do the thing and then you feel like the information you were given just kind of drops, right? How do we stay in that alignment of intuition? How do we continue that thread and make it further progress? Right. So, intuition, oh my God, there's so much available. And we get hits all the time. You hear about those people that are like, oh, I just had a feeling not to take that road, or to get in that car, or to do that thing because I knew there was an accident or something that was going to play out, right? When we are aligned to that higher consciousness and we say yes to it, we allow it, we can be given it. It's what happens in our day to day that blocks it. It's the emotions that we keep ourselves in. It's the stories we tell. It's the narratives and the language we speak to ourselves in that actually blocks it. So, what we have to do is cleanse, clear, release all of that stuff and get to the channel so that it can guide us in the way that leads us to a super abundant, fulfilling life.
Hmm. I feel like I'm getting a free masterclass of all your wisdom. Thank you.
Of course.
And, well, you said we were going to get to that, to the manifestation part, to the simplicity of it. So I want to hear a little bit about that.
I think there's a lot of, but they're all well intentioned, right? It just never made sense to me. I was like, what do you mean? You just sit and then it happens? You just sit and talk to spirit and then there you go? Like you just align to that consciousness? No, people don't typically talk that there is a layer and a level of co creation that needs to happen that we are responsible for. We are still responsible for, because we're all sovereign beings. And what we desire, yes, it is true, but we are still responsible for like in this 3D world to help make it happen. So there's a co-creation that needs to align with spirit to do the thing to make it happen. That can be the action. Oh, let me just reach out to this person and see how they're doing. And then spirit's like, perfect. That person had an opportunity for you, but we wanted you to reach out so that you can get the opportunity, so that you can say yes to it, right? We have to listen and allow for the inspired action, for the direct hit, and then we have to take the action. That's the co-creation. We are working with spirit, spirit's working with us. People like manifestation teachers are always like, oh, it felt like we were giving up our power to spirit and they were just going to give it to us, right? If we just ask for the thing and we're sitting in high vibration, it'll be given to us. No, there's still action that needs to take
Mm.
place, and it's a co-creation.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's what I've learned from the time that I've had with you in the session. It's very much, yes, ask all the time as well. right? And have this conversation that you're always talking about.
And then do what
Just
they give you.
yes, also that part, of course.
Yeah, because sometimes we stop ourselves. Oh, maybe I'll do it later. Oh God, if I reach out to that person, oh, what are they going to think? And then we stop ourselves, and Spirit's like, we just gave you the golden nugget. You asked for the
Yes,
golden nugget, we gave you the golden nugget, and then you're saying, nope, I don't want that golden nugget. Give me another golden nugget. In doing that, you're shutting down these channels, these portals to get the life that you desire. You're saying no, and Spirit's like, well, I keep doing the things. You keep saying no to them. We don't want to stop saying no.
that was one of mine. Great. Leilani, I'm in awe of your dedication, and your perseverance, and what you're really doing. It's like pure devotion to this work and to your purpose. And what are some of the big lessons learned during this journey for you?
Thank you. That was really touching to hear. I hear that I feel like I'm seen. So thank you for that. Some of the biggest lessons is truly that my light is my light and it deserves to shine. And that is what I want every client of mine to feel as well. That they
Mm.
are extremely powerful, that their light is so connected to the divinity within them, and that the world desires to feel it, that they deserve to share it. And that, truth is powerful. Truth is powerful. Integrity is powerful. Courage. This work, not just for me as the practitioner, this work takes courage. You cannot be a client and not be courageous, because you will meet the depths of you. You will go to the darkest parts of you. You will see your shadows in order to shine from your light. So it's very, very important that you do the thing, you be courageous, you say yes to yourself, because ultimately you know that you love yourself. I had to truly love myself first, fully, in all the ways. And I still get some hiccups. I'm still stuck in this 3D body, that there are some things that I wish I could change about it, right? Like I still have those human experiences, but I don't let them define me. I allow myself to feel them, and I give them space to be, but that doesn't deter from my light. That doesn't deter from who I am. So it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of intentionality and effort. But why are we living this life? We spend so much effort doing other things that we don't care to do, we don't want to do, that keeps us in vibration. Just redirect that energy. So those are some of my biggest lessons. And some people just don't want to do the work. They just don't want to find the way to love themselves. And that's also okay, because every being has their own contract, And I've also learned to not take it all on as mine. There's a lot of pain that I am witness to, and I also feel, right? And so I have to make sure that I'm good, because I can't take on your pain. I can't take on your suffering. I can show you your light. I can show you your love, but I don't want to take any of that on. And sometimes people want to give it. Let me give you my pain. Let me give you my stories. Let me give you my suffering. Um, and yeah, and that's one of my biggest lessons, is separating myself from entities, attachments, lower thought, vibrational thought forms, people's pain, suffering, stories, because it will overtake me. I have the capacity to be overtaken because I love so fully, and that's the consciousness that I connect to. And it can be very, very rough if I allow myself to go there. And sometimes I do. It's really hard not to right now in the world, and sometimes I do, but I have to. I have to pick myself back up. And I don't allow myself to do it very often, but there are times, especially when I'm hormonal, that I need to experience, some deep feelings. So there you have
Yeah. Woman, after all. Oh, I'm actually touched by your share, really touched.
it.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there some question that I haven't asked you that I should ask you in this episode?
I love this question. I like this question a lot. I think a lot of people are scared of a new experience because they're scared of what it may show them. For me, I just want people to know that if you do decide to do Akashic Records work, it doesn't have to be with me, but with somebody that's integrous and in their being, you are only given what you are ready for. You're only given what you know is already moving within you, and it's already time. And if you are given things that, because fear comes up a lot, right? Fear around spirituality, fear around what am I sensing, feeling, fear around having to experience heavy emotions, fear around being stuck, fear around not being able to shine our light, fear around people stifling our light. There's all this fear. There's all this fear, right? Fear has led to ego, led to wars, right? So the question is like, what is the fear within you that needs to have a voice?
Hmm.
Allow it to have a voice and allow yourself an experience. It doesn't have to be the Akashic Records. Allow yourself to have an experience that can hold that fear. Because if it can, then the fear can start to dissipate. If it can, then it creates spaciousness for love, for assurance, for understanding and clarity. So allow your fear to truly have a voice that it needs to have. Allow it to speak to you. Allow it to show you, patterns or limitations or things, and be with it. Be with it for a while, and then have a new experience that can kind of create space for it to dissolve. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I actually have encountered a lot of my friends having those fears
Yeah.
before doing an Akashic record. And yeah, we've usually talked a lot around that. And even before doing an Akashic record with you, they come and because it's also something that people are not very aware of what it is. So, of course, there is a lot of fear around that. And what if she tells me things that I don't want to hear? Or what if I'm very influenced by what she says? And, and I always say, well, you also have a free will. So she can say things. You always say things out of love and what people are ready to say, right?
Yeah. There have been a couple of times where it felt very assertive, some of the things that I've come through, but it was because that particular person had heard it in so many ways before that they weren't hearing it in that loving, fluffy way. But
Mm.
it's still all held in love. It's still all, yeah. Find a practitioner. If it's not with me, find a practitioner that makes you feel seen, that makes you feel held in love, that can actually hold the capacity of who you are in a way that makes you feel safe, because safety is really important. Safety is your number one. Safety is where you can grow. Safety is where you radicalize. Safety is where you love, it's all of those things. So, yeah.
And you do that so masterfully,
Hmm.
my dear.
Thank you. Thank you.
You do. So you said about a course that's coming up
Yes.
soon, tapping into.
Yeah. Tapping in. So, it's coming out in April. Yeah, April sometime, TBD. I need to work out some logistics first. But it really is a foundational base for how you can cleanse, clear, release, and connect purely, to allow it to actually provide for you, to allow it to, like, where you can live the life that you truly desire. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's a 6-week course. It's coming out in April. Stay tuned. I'm sure I'll share it with McGinnon. McGinnon will share it with all of you. But if also you know that you've kind of been intuitive in your life, but it hasn't been long lasting, or like you just want it to be a part of your everyday practice and everyday like resource tool, it's for you. So excited about it.
I'm excited too. I'm going to be there.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, love. Thank you so, so much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the being you are. Thank you for the magic that you're creating on earth.
Mm.
Deeply thank you.
I receive that gratefully. And McGenna, thank you for your light. You are such a light filled essence. And your people know that. Your community knows that. I'm sure everybody that's listening to this will agree. But your light radiates, and it's very beautiful when we come from that place. What happens? So thank you for you.
Oh my God, you're making me cry now. Thank you. Thank you for being with us in the Life's Lessons Lounge. Remember, every story has its wisdom. Join us next time for more insights and inspiration. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharing your own story.